Hi, my name is Carol Levy. I have trigeminal neuralgia. I was going to put on a poem I had written called Ode to Trigeminal Neuralgia that I'd written at the end of August. But then when I replayed it and saw how I looked, I said, no, I need to put on my story about my face and my trigeminal neuralgia. My trigeminal neuralgia started in 1976, shortly after I moved to New York City to try to become an actress and a singer. I was sitting in my apartment just doing my hair when this pain hit me in the side of my face right there, like a knife slicing through my skin, only 1,000 times worse. Only lasted for 10 to 20 seconds, but that began my being disabled for the last 30-plus years because of this pain. It took a while to get diagnosed, and then I had my first surgery. It turned out there were dozens, maybe more, of extra thin blood vessels throughout the left side of my brain, the affected side for the trigeminal neuralgia. And Dr. Joe Osterholm got rid of as many of them as he could, and he fixed the pain. It was gone 99.99%. There was a little tiny area that was red on the side of my face that was a sign of the birth defect, and unfortunately, within 3 months, the blood vessels grew back, and the pain came back in the exact same way. I had 2 other procedures done, and the second one numbed my entire face instead of just the area of the pain. It also injured the nerve that allows swallowing, and although I didn't know it at the time, it also injured my facial nerve because I lost the taste and feeling in my left tongue and mouth. I was then referred to Dr. Peter Janetta. Dr. Janetta brought me into the hospital, did some tests, and finally decided to do what's called a Janetta procedure, a microvascular decompression procedure. This is now 1979, about 2.5 years later. Because my face was entirely numb from the last procedure, and the pain was only in this part of my face. It did not go down to my chin and jaw and mouth. And because the numbness was in that area as well, I was concerned about my face and asked Dr. Janetta specifically, can you injure my face in any way? I want to be an actress. He said, quote, I promise you your face cannot be injured, unquote. When I awakened in the intensive care unit where all patients go after the Janetta procedure, it turned out my left side of my face was 100% paralyzed. Dr. Janetta came into the ICU, said hello, put his fingers next to my ear. Can you hear that? I could. And he said fine and left. He then left for Germany that afternoon. I wasn't to see him again for 8 weeks. In the interim, I had to have my eye sewn closed because between the numbness from the other procedure and now the paralysis, the eye was drying out and getting so infected I was in danger of losing it. That was supposed to be permanent. I did not agree to that, and the eye, thank God, is doing pretty well. It has been for a while, but I've also had to have it sewn shut on and off throughout the years. I looked so awful from the paralysis that my one sister said if I ever took off my sunglasses, which I would wear everywhere, in front of her children, again, specifically her 5-year-old child, I would never be allowed to see them again because her son kept asking me, what's there, what's wrong with your eye? I showed him he was fine, but when she walked in the room and I had my sunglasses off, don't you ever do that, you'll never see them again. And that was my family. Strangers sometimes treated me better, sometimes treated me worse. I had a number of other procedures. None really worked. Some worked kind of slightly, but often it was in the summer when my pain was better anyway, the pain being triggered by any touch, including a light breeze. In the summer, no breeze, better pain. Finally, I had to sue Dr. Janetta. I also sued the doctor who numbed my face, but that's another story. I sued Dr. Janetta. Dr. Janetta was asked in 2 depositions, did you tell me facial paralysis was a risk? And he said in both depositions, again a quote, facial paralysis is a major and common complication of which I invariably inform my patients, unquote. But then when he got on the stand, he said it was an unknown complication. How could I tell you about something we don't know? The case was thrown out. There's a long story behind the lawsuit itself, which I won't get into right now. The case was thrown out, and on appeal, the judges said Dr. Janetta testified perjuriously. His deposition testimony was different from and inconsistent with his testimony at trial. My lawyers forced me to settle for a very, very tiny amount, even a lesser amount than what a judge had suggested when I had to act as my own attorney. My lawyer called me 7 times in a 2.5-hour period on a Friday afternoon, each time coming down with the amount. Finally crying, I said, fine, just take it. Just take it. I can't deal with this. Then on the following Monday, I wrote my lawyer and called him and said, I don't accept the settlement. The case had been in the courts, by the way, for 14 years at this point. The lawyer said, oh, you must take the settlement. You have no choice. Believing that that was the truth, I agreed to take the settlement. And within 1 month, Dr. Janetta was nominated as Secretary of Health for the state of Pennsylvania by Governor Ridge. My book that I wrote 10 years ago this month is on one person's experience with living with and struggling against trigeminal neuralgia. The Trigeminal Neuralgia Association, now called the Facial Pain Association, has refused to even put a click to my book, even when I offered to donate part of the profits to the Facial Pain Association, because I was told 10 years ago when I first offered it to them to let people know about it, that one, it was too harrowing. Well, people who have people who have read it have told me this is their story. It's not too harrowing because it's the story of so many of us. But I was also told it's because I talk about what Dr. Janetta did. In 8 pages out of 318 pages, I talk about what happened at that hospital, and do say Dr. Janetta paralyzed my face and explain about the surgery. So I want to let all of you know that this is what happened to me. This is my story. This is why I look the way I do. And this is one of the many faces of trigeminal neuralgia. Thank you.